Hello, my friends. My name is Gerdes. I'm just a professor trying to provide you context in the war in Ukraine. So, generally, I do three big stories, but here we're doing just one big story. We're on day 2 of a 3-day election, and there's already been weeks of early voting for Putin. Now, we're going to just kind of walk through this. Let's hear what RT has to say before we do anything else.
Russia's President Putin is facing a national election that will test the public support for his leadership.
But will it actually test anything, or is that just what she's saying? Because public support for his leadership is dependent on free and fair elections. What he's actually doing is putting on some kind of mockery, some kind of theatrical show where he's spending $1 billion to garb himself in the cloak of legality, but it's not really there.
The Ukraine conflict in particular focus. That issue is of such importance that when Vladimir Putin presented the reasons for the military operation in a recent interview with American journalist Tucker Carlson, the video racked up over 200 million views.
Okay, so let's go and see who his opponents are here. Let's just move this along.
The presidential election, as he faces off against top candidates from the enduringly popular Communist Party, the nationalist LDPR, and the upstart New People movement.
Do you know the guy from the Communist Party, like his big platform is that agricultural reforms in the 1930s were a good idea? Forget that millions of people starved, but that's like what he's all about. Okay, so this is a fake election. There's nothing really to see there. It reminds me of World Wrestling Federation. Now, when I was like 8, I thought this was awesome because like, wow, these two guys are going to wrestle it out. And I had no idea that real wrestling looked nothing like this. But that's what this reminds me of. Vlad Vexler had this. Putin's election is a special kind of re-legitimization ritual. I give a fun but deep account of how it works in the latest main channel video. Now, why does he do this? Because he puts this veneer of legality in place, even though everybody knows it's fake. And you can tell that people know that it's fake by the way that they react to it. And you'll see what I'm talking about in just a moment. So, yeah, we all know that it's like a coronation rather than an election in any meaningful way. So here, let's go back and see what Doug McGregor has to say here about just American elections. From time to time throughout history, we've had problems with election integrity. That's true. People can stuff the ballot boxes. That kind of thing has happened. We know that like certain elections were more vulnerable than other elections over our time. That's absolutely true. Whether it was elections that were rigged or where there was substantial cheating, but we have dealt with those things in the past. Today, it's very different. We have the problem with automation, online computers, a number of different methods that are very hard to track and control. This is by design. Okay, now let's say, and I saw something else about Mike Lindell's lawsuit, talking about how they rigged the machines. Let's just say, I don't want anybody rigging machines electronically. I don't want them stuffing ballot boxes. So we're all on the same page about that. This may be an extra layer of difficulty that's more difficult to control, or it may be easier to cheat. I don't know. But just because you have paper ballots, it doesn't mean they're not going to cheat. And we'll show you what I mean in just a little bit. Who's going to win the presidential election? Putin, 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 or Putin? Because really, that's what it amounts to when you do stuff like, well, I'll show you in just a moment. Putin will receive what percentage of the vote? I put this out on my community tab yesterday. Putin, look at the results. It's pretty fascinating. Now, 20% of you said more than 100% of eligible voters. I don't think that will be the case. It probably will be the case in some sections of the occupied territory. I think that will be absolutely the case some places there. But the vast majority of you put between 80 and 100%. Do you know of any elections in the free world where that's kind of a normal thing to have happen? Even like with 4 candidates, that they would be 80+%. So let's see what it is. My call is going to be 86% of the vote. Like, we can talk about this in a couple of days and see how close I was, but that's my guess. Look at only 2% of you thought that he was going to win, with somewhere between 51% and 70%, which would be Normal in a two-way race that it's over 51%. And like Bill Clinton won with like 40 something percent of the vote, 43, 45, I don't remember what it was, but that was in a three-way race. So only 2% of you think it'll be less than 70% or less. Okay, let's look at this. Probably just asking each voter if they need a pen. Now, how free and fair do you think this election is when you have security with a machine gun? Like, look at the rifle that he has in his hands, checking to see what's going on. Do you need a pen? Is there a holdup? Is there some kind of problem? Right? Are you going to vote for someone other than Putin under those circumstances? And so this is why this lady is pouring ink into the ballot box to protest. You don't protest when something is free and fair. You protest when you know that it's rigged, and this is the only way that you can express your displeasure in order to have any kind of meaningful effect. So that's what's going on there. Now we have seen other things like this as well. This Russian woman is showing her appreciation for Putin's sham elections by attempting to throw a three-pointer into the ballot box using a cocktail. It didn't quite hit, but it was close enough, and it actually did the job. Now, we've seen this movie before. What tricks were played in the Russian election? Well, this is a 2018 article, and they talked about exactly the same things, like ballot stuffing. And so if you just watch this woman in blue here, you'll see what happens. This guy's just come out. He's dropped his ballot. And again, as McGregor was talking about paper ballots don't mean they can't be, see, there you go, there's one. Paper ballots don't mean they can't be rigged. She's getting it from here, she's getting this from this lady, it's being handed off, she talks a little bit, makes a little small talk, and then she meanders over and does her paper ballot stuffing. Okay, so it can happen, it has happened. This is 2018. She's stuffing a bunch of them, right? 2018. Here comes another one. Bam, she's stuffing a bunch of them. Okay, so yeah, the election was rigged, and if I was Russian, I would be rightly angry that this is happening. Now, is it happening here? Well, according to Igor Shushko, you see it happening. Ballot stuffing by Putin regime fascists around 8:20 p.m. after the polling station already closed. Here we go. They're just pushing it away. Now, the trick to this is, I showed you a video yesterday that was saying, see, they have cameras in all the polling stations. Well, okay, you have cameras, and they were saying, in American polling stations, wouldn't this take care of it? Well, yes and no. If you have it on during the polling station only during the day, and not at night when they're actually doing the stuffing, it's not going to do any good. So, okay. So that's the problem. And that's why, going back to Vlad's point, it's a fake election. We know it's a fake election, but he's doing this re-legitimization ritual that we know isn't valid, but yet he does this anyway to show unity. And again, he's spending $1 billion on this. Like, it's one thing to spend $1 billion on an actual election where there's a real contest, but to spend it on this, it just boggles my mind. Okay, tell me what you think. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, and the subscribes, and for listening to me for one big story. And thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.